Hi, I'm Adam, 28, and last week at my brother's graduation ceremony, my entire family found out something I've been hiding for years, and it all started because my dad couldn't stop laughing at me. To understand why this became such a circus, you need to know one thing. In my family, I'm the disappointment. Not the black sheep. No, that would imply some personality. I'm more like the dusty IKEA lamp nobody bothers to throw away. My little brother, Evan, on the other hand? Straight A genius, football team, mom's pride, dad's oxygen supply. So when he asked the family to attend his military graduation, basic training, full ceremony, uniforms, marching, their excitement was nauseating. My dad bought a whole new suit, my mom practiced crying in the mirror. It was a pilgrimage. Evan was the chosen son ascending to heaven. And me? I just showed up. The moment we got there, Dad started pointing at the soldiers like they were exotic zoo animals. Look at those real men, Adam, strong men, dedicated men, not like, well, you know. Oh, I knew. Every time a drill sergeant barked, my dad snorted like he was watching stand-up comedy. Every time I stood too relaxed, he poked me in the ribs. See that, Adam? That's discipline, you could learn something. Then Evan's division marched out, Dad puffed up like a toad, Mom started leaking tears, my grandma passed out candy she wasn't supposed to bring. And right then, right as the sun hit my face and I lifted my hand to shield my eyes, Dad burst out laughing again. Look at you, Adam! Can't even stand properly! You'd last 3 seconds here before crying. My jaw clenched so hard I swear the air shifted, because here's the thing none of them knew. 3 years ago, I had been standing on that exact same parade field, in the same heat, under the same screaming drill instructors, not as a visitor. As a trainee, and I hadn't told a single person in my family, not because I was ashamed, but because, well, they didn't deserve to know, and the universe apparently agreed, because that's when I saw him, the one man who could blow everything open, Drill Sergeant Whitaker. The exact drill sergeant who once smoked me so hard I saw God twice. He was staring at me, then he froze. Recognition hit him like a brick to the skull. And oh, my dad was about to regret every laugh. Drill Sergeant Whitaker didn't just look at me. He did the impossible. He stopped yelling. This was a man who could bark the paint off a wall, a man whose normal speaking voice registered somewhere between jet engine and biblical thunder. Seeing him silently squint at me was like watching a lion pause mid-pounce to check if the gazelle owed him money. My dad noticed the silence, too. What's he looking at? He whispered, then laughed. Probably wondering how someone like you got onto the base without getting lost. Yeah, hilarious. Whitaker started walking toward us, not marching, not stomping, walking, purposefully, calmly, which was even scarier, because drill sergeants don't walk, they attack the ground with their feet like it personally offended them. My mom straightened her blouse. Is he coming to congratulate Evan's family? My dad puffed up like a smug balloon. Of course he is. I didn't say a word. I just stood still. When Whitaker finally stopped in front of us, he didn't look at my parents, didn't look at Evan's division, didn't even glance at my brother. He looked straight at me. Then, in the lowest, most human voice I'd ever heard him use, he said, "Well, I'll be damned, Private Miller." My dad's smile fell off his face like wet plaster. Whitaker nodded once, respectfully, the way a drill sergeant acknowledges someone who survived more than just the training. Didn't expect to see you back here. Heard what happened. My stomach tightened. He wasn't supposed to bring that part up. Not now, not here. My dad blinked. Private? Wait, Private? Whitaker turned to him stiffly. Yes, sir, your boy here was one of mine. My mom gasped, my grandma dropped a butterscotch candy, some other families glanced over. My dad pointed at me like I was a malfunctioning appliance. Him? He didn't, he never, what are you talking about? Whitaker's expression sharpened. Your son completed 12 weeks of basic training under me. Hardest cycle I ran that year. My dad looked at me, then at Whitaker, then back at me, like he was trying to solve an algebra equation using only resentment. But he never told us. Whitaker shrugged. Not my business why, but I'll tell you this. Private Miller wasn't the strongest, wasn't the fastest, wasn't the biggest. He paused. But he sure as hell had more heart than half my platoon. I felt my ears heat. That was the closest thing to a compliment you could get from Whitaker without dying first. My dad opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Then Whitaker looked back at me. You alright, son? Didn't think you'd ever set foot here again. I swallowed hard, because the truth was, I never planned to, and exactly why I stayed away, why I'd walked away from that world completely, my family was about to find out. This is where everything cracked open. Before my dad could fling another confused insult or demand an explanation, Whitaker's voice changed. It softened, barely noticeable unless you'd survived his training, but I heard it immediately. He said, "Heard about the injury. Didn't know how bad it was until after you left." My parents froze. My throat tightened, because that was the part I'd never planned on explaining to them. Not ever. My dad scoffed. "Injury? He works at a desk. What injury?" Whitaker turned his head slowly, like an artillery cannon pivoting onto target. "Your son never told you what happened on week 9? Mom whispered. "Week 9 of what?" "Of basic training, ma'am." Whitaker crossed his arms. "We were doing live fire exercises. Private Miller here pushed another recruit out of the way when a ricochet came off the berm, took the hit himself." My dad let out a stunned puff of air. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Whitaker continued, voice steady. "Most kids freeze, he didn't." I swallowed, my leg tingled just hearing it. Whitaker looked at my parents with this, almost disappointed expression. "You should have been proud." The silence that fell wasn't just quiet, it was heavy, dense, like a thick fog no one knew how to breathe through. My dad's voice came out shaky. You're saying he got hurt? Like seriously hurt?" Whitaker nodded. "Could have been worse." He stayed calm, followed protocol, saved that recruit a world of hurt. Mom looked at me with wide, glassy eyes. "Why didn't you tell us?" I laughed once, short, sharp. "Because you wouldn't have believed me." Dad flinched like I slapped him. Mom whispered, "We're your family." I met her eyes. "And when have you ever acted like it?" Dad tried to recover. "Well, why didn't you stay? If you finished training, why aren't you in uniform like your brother?" Whitaker's jaw ticked. He already knew the answer. He'd been there for the fallout. But he stayed quiet. "Let me say it myself. So I did. I got discharged," I said evenly. "Medical, they said I'd heal, but never be fit for duty again, not with the nerve damage." My mom's eyes filled. My dad shook his head, confused. "But you walk fine." "Most days," I said. "The others, you don't see." Whitaker cleared his throat. "To be honest, sir, I tried to fight it, thought he deserved another chance, but the board said no, too big a risk." Dad opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out, because this was the moment he realized just how badly he misjudged me. Whitaker clapped a hand on my shoulder, firm, warm, real. "You did good, son." Then he leaned in and murmured something only I could hear. "You didn't fail, you got sacrificed." My chest tightened. He straightened up again and marched off to gather the platoon. My parents just stared at me, like I was a stranger. But the turning point, the real break in the dam, that came 30 seconds later, when my brother, golden boy, family favorite, future hero, walked up to me with tears in his eyes, and said something I never expected. Evan marched toward us with the rest of his graduating platoon behind him. But the second he spotted me standing there, his step faltered, just for half a second, but enough that the guy behind him bumped into his back. My dad nudged my mom. "Look, he's coming to us. That's my boy." But Evan walked right past him, right past Mom, straight to me. He stopped inches away, his jaw trembling like he was holding back something volcanic. He was still in full dress uniform, chest rising and falling, eyes wet. And then he did it. He saluted me. Full, perfect, regulation salute. My dad's face went slack. My mom whispered, "Evan, what are you doing?" But Evan didn't look at them. He kept his eyes locked on mine. "Private Miller," he said quietly, voice shaking. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know." My throat tightened. "It's fine." "No, it isn't." He lowered the salute and grabbed my shoulder. "Adam, I looked up to you, I always have, but they—" He glanced back at our parents. "They spent years telling me you were lazy, aimless, weak." Dad sputtered. "We didn't say weak, Dad." Evan snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut steel. "You said it every time something went wrong in your life. If only Adam were more like a real man. You said it so often I started believing it, too." My dad stared at him like he'd grown another head. Evan turned back to me, breath catching. "But you were here first, you were standing on this exact field before me, you went through all this alone, you got hurt and didn't quit, and they didn't even show up to support you." Mom whispered. We didn't know, because you didn't ask." Evan snapped out. A few families nearby turned to watch the scene now unfolding like a live soap opera. My dad stepped forward, voice defensive. "Adam should have told us. If he just—" I cut him off. Dad, the day I left for basic, you told me it was a phase, that I'd be home within a week crying from my video games. He shrank just a little. Why would I tell you anything after that? Mom put a hand over her mouth. Evan looked between all of us, his eyes blazing. When Sergeant Whitaker called him one of his best, I felt sick, because I realized the person I wanted to become? My role model? It wasn't some hero I'd never met, it was you, and I treated you like crap because I didn't know the truth. I swallowed hard. Ev, I want to fix it, he said. And I want you to know. I'm proud of you. Something cracked in me, quietly, painfully. Something that had been tight for years. But Dad? Oh, he couldn't let the spotlight move on from him. He stepped between us like he was the general of the family, hands raised dramatically. Okay, enough emotions, let's all calm down. Let's remember we're here for Evan, not whatever this pity story is. Evan turned to him slowly, expression flat. Dad, shut up. The entire row behind us gasped. Dad's face went purple. You can't talk to me like, then stop acting like a clown. Evan snapped. Adam doesn't owe you anything, not an explanation, not forgiveness, not a conversation, you weren't there for him. Dad took a step back, stunned, and then, like he was desperate to regain control, he hissed. Well, maybe Adam wouldn't have washed out if he were strong enough to, Dad. I said quietly. Stop. But he didn't. He went for the kill. You never finish what you start, not school, not jobs, not. That was it. That was the spark. Because someone else heard him. Someone with a temper like TNT and authority like a tank rolling downhill. Drill Sergeant Whitaker, halfway across the field, turned at the sound, and when he saw my father pointing at me, shouting, he marched back, fast. This was about to get loud. Whitaker stormed toward us with the kind of purposeful fury that makes grown men reconsider every choice they've made since birth. The other drill sergeants noticed and instinctively stepped aside, like wildlife clearing a path for a charging bear. My dad, in true dad fashion, didn't register the danger. He was too busy lecturing me, hands waving, voice rising. You never commit to anything, Adam. That's your problem. If you'd pushed harder, if you weren't so, sir. Whitaker's voice cracked through the air like a rifle shot. My dad froze mid-rant, eyes wide. Whitaker stopped a foot away from him, shoulders squared, posture sharp enough to slice metal. His face was unreadable, the kind of unreadable that meant bad things were coming. Sir? He repeated. I'm only going to say this once. My dad swallowed. Yes? Whitaker inhaled, slow and controlled. Do not ever talk to a soldier like that. My dad blinked. Soldier? He's not. Whitaker stepped closer. He is, sir. Whether he stayed in or not, whether you want to believe it or not, he bled in training, he served, he earned it, and the fact that you're standing here running your mouth is embarrassing. Mom gasped. Grandma clutched her pearls like we were in a 1920s scandal. Whitaker wasn't done, not even close. I've seen Private Miller push through injuries that would have sent most recruits home. I've seen him carry people twice his size. I've seen him take hits, keep fighting, and never complain. Dad blinked rapidly. He never told us any of this. Whitaker's jaw tightened. Maybe consider the possibility that he didn't tell you because you didn't make it safe to. Dad's face flushed an ugly red. Whitaker continued, voice steady but sharp. Your son didn't quit, he didn't wash out, he was medically discharged, and he left with more dignity than most men I've trained. Evan nodded fiercely beside me. Mom looked like someone had unplugged her brain and plugged it back and backwards. And one more thing. Whitaker added, lowering his voice. You are undermining your son's achievements at their own graduation ceremony. I don't care who you are, that stops now. Dad opened his mouth. Whitaker raised a hand. Dad closed it. Whitaker then turned to me, and his voice softened into something almost human. You did good, son, don't let anyone tell you different, not even blood. My chest tightened, and for one brief second, I had to look away so I wouldn't embarrass myself in front of 30 soldiers in a marching band. Then Whitaker turned and marched off like he just dropped a legal summons from God himself. Dad stood stiffly beside us, humiliated, embarrassed, furious at everyone except the person he should have been furious at, himself. He cleared his throat, straightened his shirt, and muttered. Well, that was unnecessary. Evan snapped around. Dad, seriously? Mom winced. Honey, maybe just stop talking. But my dad couldn't stop, his pride wouldn't let him. This whole thing has gotten blown out of proportion. Adam didn't tell us, how were we supposed to know? I sighed. I didn't tell you because the last time I tried to talk about the army, you laughed at me. Dad crossed his arms. Well, maybe I laughed because it sounded ridiculous. Evan ran a hand down his face. Dad. But Dad pushed on, voice sharp, angry, wounded. I mean, what would we have even said? Congratulations? Good job hiding it from us? You think we're supposed to celebrate something we weren't invited to? Mom whispered. Stop, no. Dad barked. We deserve to know. We're your family. I finally turned to him, and I said the thing I'd been holding back for 3 long years. You're my relatives, Dad. Family is the people who show up. For the first time in my entire life, he had no comeback. Dad stood there, stunned, like I'd just punched a hole straight through his worldview. But before he could reboot and start yelling again, the ceremony wrapped up and a crowd of graduating soldiers poured into the field. Evan was immediately swarmed by fellow trainees and their families, laughing, congratulating, taking pictures. Pride was everywhere, people hugging, people crying. Moms ugly crying into tiny tissue packets. And then there was my family. My grandma awkwardly patting my dad's shoulder like he'd just been diagnosed with something emotional instead of self-inflicted. My mom wiping her eyes and staring at me with this strange mix of guilt, pride, and confusion, as if she was trying to rewrite the last 10 years on the spot. Dad just kept shifting his weight like the ground was too hot for him. Evan finally broke away from the crowd and hurried back to me. Hey, he said, breathless. Want to grab a picture with me? I blinked. Me? Yes, you, he said, rolling his eyes. You think I want a photo with Dad after that? Dad's jaw dropped. My mom nervously smoothed her dress. Evan, don't be disrespectful. No, Evan said, turning to her. Mom, I'm done pretending he didn't act like a jerk. Adam deserves better. Mom looked between us helplessly. I didn't know he'd hurt himself. I didn't know he served. I didn't know any of this. I shrugged. I stopped trying to tell you things after a while. Why? She whispered. I met her eyes. Because you always talked over me. Evan winced. Mom's face crumpled. Dad muttered something under his breath. But even he seemed to realize arguing now would only make him look worse. Evan nudged me. Come on, man, seriously, I want a photo with you. You're the reason I even made it through this thing. I stared at him, stunned. I didn't do anything. He laughed. Are you kidding? I spent every hard day imagining you doing this years ago. It made me push harder. How do you think I got top scores in ruck marches? I was trying to beat you. I blinked. You beat my ghost, that's impressive. He grinned. Then imagine how unstoppable we'd be if I trained with the real you. He said it loud enough that Dad heard. Dad stiffened, glancing at me like he didn't know who the hell I was anymore. Which, in his defense, he didn't. He'd never bothered to find out. Evan slung an arm around me and waved over a soldier holding a camera. Mom stepped forward. Can I get one with you both afterward? I nodded, because I wasn't cruel. But Dad, he lingered behind us, arms folded, glaring, not angry at me, but angry at reality for proving him wrong. We took the picture. Evan beaming. Me trying not to smile too widely. Dad trying not to implode. After the photo, Evan jogged off to grab his duffel bag, leaving me and Dad alone for the first time. He cleared his throat. Adam, we should talk. My stomach tightened. About what? He looked at the ground, then at me, then at the sky, anywhere but my eyes. I didn't know, he said quietly. I didn't know you were capable of all that. Because you didn't want to know, I said. He flinched. He struggled. I don't want there to be tension between us. Too late for that. But before I could reply, a familiar voice called out from behind me. Well, if it isn't Private Miller. A soldier in uniform walked up, someone I hadn't seen since my own graduation cycle. Reyes, one of the guys I'd saved. Dad's eyes widened. Do you two know each other? Reyes grinned. Know him? This guy saved my hide, literally. If he didn't shove me down that day, I'd be the one with nerve damage, or worse. Dad's face strained of color. Reyes clapped my shoulder. You looked out for everyone, even when you didn't have to. My dad stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time in his entire life, and that was nice. But what Reyes said next? That was the grenade that blew everything open. Reyes shifted awkwardly, glancing between me and my parents like he was debating whether to open a door labeled emotional explosion. Then he sighed and said, Look, I've always felt bad about what happened during the review board. My dad stiffened. Review board? What review board? Reyes scratched the back of his neck. Your son didn't get discharged just because of his injury, Carmichael. The golden boy with the politician mom and the colonel dad screwed something up during a field drill, nearly got me hurt, actually. And instead of taking responsibility, he blamed Adam, said Adam gave him the wrong instruction. Dad blinked like someone had unplugged his brain. And command believed him? Reyes let out a humorless laugh. Believe him? They practically gift-wrapped him their approval. Command didn't want drama with his family. Adam became the easy scapegoat. Mom's face crumpled. Evan clenched his jaw so hard I heard his teeth grind. Reyes continued. Half the platoon backed Adam, me, Rivers, Lopez. We all signed statements, but none of it mattered. The board wanted the problem gone, and they made him the problem. My father turned toward me, stunned. You never said anything. You wouldn't have believed me, I said quietly. Every time I tried to talk about the army, you laughed. Dad flinched hard. Reyes wasn't finished. And here's the kicker. Carmichael washed out a month later, couldn't handle pressure. The board just didn't want to deal with him the same day. Dad's face turned red, not angry at me, but angry at reality. Before he could say another word, a voice like thunder cracked across the field. Private Miller! Whitaker, marching straight toward us like a man sent by God to collect overdue debts. Evan whispered. Oh boy. Whitaker didn't stop until we were alone behind a row of trucks. He stood stiffly, hands clasped behind his back, jaw tight. Then, unexpectedly, his posture softened. Son, I didn't say this in front of your family because they already look like they got hit with artillery fire. But you need to hear it. He inhaled. A new review board reopened old cases. Carmichael's file was enlightening. My heart thudded. They interviewed former platoon members, checked statements, talked to me. He paused. Your discharge was ruled wrongful. I stared at him. He continued. They're offering reinstatement, full, with back pay. For a moment I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Whitaker rested a hand on my shoulder. You didn't fail, Miller, you got screwed, now they're fixing it. If you want your place back, it's yours. When we returned to the field, my parents were waiting. Mom's eyes were red. Dad looked like he'd aged 15 years in 20 minutes. He stepped toward me. Son. I'm sorry, I didn't know I should have, Dad. I said gently. I'm not angry, but I'm done trying to earn approval you never planned to give. He swallowed hard and nodded. Later, at Evan's house, he sat with me on the steps. So, you thinking about going back? I stared at the sky, the same sky I'd looked up at the day they discharged me. Yeah, I said finally. Not for them, for me. Evan bumped my shoulder. Then I'm proud of you again. For the first time in years, the weight on my chest felt lighter. For the first time, I felt seen.